Hello, my name is Susan Patterson, and I have created this project for EDU587 at Georgetown College. It is called Culturally Responsive Teaching, Learning More About Mexican Immigrants. Mexico features a diverse geography. Mexico is the third largest country in Latin America and is in the southern North America. Society in Mexico encompasses extreme wealth and extreme poverty. Mexico is one of the larger economic and political forces in Latin America. Despite the economic challenges the country encompasses, such as drug abuse, crime, and government corruption. Mexico shares a common border with the United States. It is also bordered by the Pacific Ocean on the south and by the Gulf of Mexico on its east side. Guadalajara is located in west central Mexico. Guadalajara is the capital and largest city of the Mexican state of Jalisco. The city is in the central area of Jalisco in the West Pacific area of Mexico. The city of Amacuzac is located about 6 hours east of Guadalajara, Mexico. The climate is dry and mild, except for the rainy season, which extends from July to mid-September. Guadalajara is rich in Mexican culture. The area has become famous for its tequila, which is manufactured locally. Mariachi music, sombreros, and rodeos, and the Mexican hat dance are also popular. Mexico has a federal republic government similar to that of the United States of America. A federal republic is a federation of independent states with a representative form of national government. Mexico's form of currency is the peso. Its official language is Spanish, however, other languages are used in Mexico, such as Latin American Spanish and English. History of Mexico. Mexico is a country rich in history, tradition, and culture. Mexico is made up of 31 states and one federal district. It is the third largest country in Latin America and has one of the largest populations with more than 100 million people, making it the home of more people who speak Spanish than any other country in the world. Evidence of past cultures and events are apparent everywhere in Mexico. Many of Mexico's rural areas are still inhabited by indigenous people whose lifestyles are quite similar to those of their ancestors. Catholicism is the most dominant religion in the country. About 83% of the population as of 2010 were practicing Catholicism in Mexico. More recently, the number of Catholics has been declining due to the growth of other Christian denominations. These are mainly various Protestant churches and Mormonism, which now consists of about 10% of the population. Most recently, the number of Catholics has been declining, and Christianity has been one of the more popular choices, almost 10% of the population, and other non-Christian religions. Several different languages are spoken in Mexico, with a large majority of the population being fluent in Spanish, while some indigenous Mexicans are monolingual in indigenous languages. Today, Mexicans mostly speak Spanish and English as a second language. As many as 100 Native American languages are still spoken in Mexico. No single alternative language exists in Mexico. 80% of Mexicans who speak an indigenous language also speak Spanish. Before the arrival of Europeans, the indigenous population was highly populated in central, west, and southern highland regions of Mexico. The Spanish settled in existing indigenous communities in order to use their labor in agriculture and mining. Mining and agriculture have made these areas highly populated. These areas have remained the most densely populated throughout Mexico's history. In other areas of Mexico, more isolated settlements were centered around mines, mission sites, and military camps. The Hispanic culture has many lively celebrations and holidays. One very popular holiday is Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo is a holiday that celebrates the date of the Mexican Army's victory over France at the Battle of Pueblo in 1862. It is held on the 5th day of May. Tradition includes military parades, recreations of the Battle of Pueblo, and other festive events. The Day of the Dead is a Mexican holiday celebrated throughout Mexico. The multi-day holiday focuses on gatherings of family and friends to celebrate and remember friends and family members who have died. It is said that the celebration helps support their spiritual journey to eternity. Plans for the celebration are made throughout the year, including gathering the goods to be offered to the dead. During the 3-day period, families usually clean and decorate graves. Many plan face paintings and costumes. As with many other traditions in Mexico, there is a festive music and food for the celebration. Many family members visit the cemeteries where their loved ones are buried and decorate their graves with altars, which often include orange Mexican marigold flowers, candles, and pictures. Food is a huge part of the Mexican culture, daily and on special occasions such as holidays and celebrations. Cuisine varies greatly by regions in Mexico. The types of food depends greatly on staples such as corn, beans, and squash. Rice is another popular food, usually served with beans. Mexicans tend to make liberal use of avocados, chili peppers, amaranth, tomatoes, papayas, potatoes, lentils, and plantains. Hot peppers and salt are the most common condiments used in Mexico. Maize tortillas are often served on a plate alongside main dishes. In Mexico, the women gather together and cook large amounts of food for holiday festivities, sometimes spending days in the kitchen cooking large meals together. Food is a special bond for Mexican families and celebrations. It is a Mexican tradition that continues to win over the hearts of people all over the world. Since the early stages of Mexican culture, death and dying have been embraced as part of life. The Mayans and Aztecs were groups of warriors who practiced human sacrifice, which is representation of a more casual acceptance of death. With this ancient belief, along with Catholicism, it is apparent that there is a deeply religious aspect to death in Mexico. Some current practices show acceptance of death as part of life. Rituals such as the Day of the Dead, which is a celebration that honors those who are deceased. With the Day of the Dead celebration, many citizens adorn themselves and decorate their homes with colorful skeletons, play music, instruments, and perform by dancing. The celebration is meant to ease grief and affirm the belief in the afterlife of loved ones. Ofrendas are often set up in people's homes to honor the spirit of someone close and dear to them who has recently died. Ofrendas or altars are loaded with items that the person loved from their life and may include things like favorite foods, to cherished pictures, or favorite articles of clothing. Another ritual in Mexico is to decorate graves. The graves of loved ones are adorned with decorations to help appease the departed loved ones. Also in Mexico, there's a custom of the last rites. When someone is about to die, preparation begins. A communion of last rites is performed, which can include anointing of the sick, confessions of the dying person, prayers, and a blessing on the dying person. In Mexico, school attendance is required for children ages 6 to 18. In the past 10 years, preschool has also now been deemed necessary and mandatory. Public schools in Mexico are funded by the federal government. Rural schools are often the poorest of schools in Mexico. Many families move to more urban areas because of the availability of better schools for their children. Despite increases in the numbers of schools in Mexico, teachers about 1/7 of all school-aged children do not attend school, and almost 1/3 of adults have not completed primary school. Private schools are considered vastly superior to the um, public ones, and families who can afford it send their children to private schools. This contributes to the socio and economic imbalance that greatly supports the middle and upper class. It is important for educators to consider their students' prior academic learning and experiences when lesson planning and delivering instruction of academic content. Teachers in the United States with students from Mexico need a basic understanding of the education system in Mexico in order to relate to their students' academic needs. In order to better serve the ELL population from Mexico, teachers must learn about prior social, economic, and educational conditions ELL students experienced in Mexico. Teachers need to learn what the ELL students know, what they want and need to learn, and their learning styles. Teachers who value what students know and tap into that knowledge, background knowledge, in order to enhance new learning, enable their students to reach higher levels of academic achievement. From Valdez, 1998. In addition to providing cultural and linguistic confirmation, educators must believe that learning Spanish and learning about Mexican culture is beneficial to both the teacher and the ELL student. Teachers should have the belief that being bilingual and bicultural enriches our society in the United States. Validation of the ELL students' culture should be an ongoing process that takes place daily in the classroom and school as a whole in order for ELL students to get the most rewarding education. Teachers, school support staff, and leadership at the school should promote student engagement, monitor students' progress, and provide regular feedback on students' performances to the student and the family when possible. Such practices, if carried out regularly, can largely contribute to the establishment of trust among students, teachers, and families and will increase the student's achievement. As leaders in education, we should consider the best research-based approaches to support culturally responsive schools. First, we as educators should match our classroom instruction to cultural norms of our students. This is most helpful for social interaction, which enhances students' social skills development and problem-solving ability. We as teachers can make positive instructional use of students' skills and behaviors by creating assignments that require group interaction. We also need to be sensitive to the cultural shifts that immigrant students must make as they move to the United States. We must try to understand the new routines and schedules they must face. Transition may be most difficult at the beginning of the school year or more often the school week, after students have been immersed in their home culture over the weekend. Educators need to be sensitive to transition challenges and work with their families to develop programs and services to ease the stress caused by these transitions. Leaders in education must give families and students the tools and resources they need in order to succeed and adapt to their new lives in a new place. Without these tools and resources, many minority parents, especially new immigrants, may not feel competent or welcome at our schools. We must improve our system so that they feel comfortable advocating on behalf of their child or knowledgeable enough to support their child's efforts at school. Teachers can help by talking with parents with an interpreter when possible, rather than using more formal written communication such as letters or notes. If letters or notes are used, they must be translated appropriately. We can also help by ensuring conferences and other school events are supported by interpreters so that our families feel more comfortable understanding the information presented to them. This concludes my project. We need to embrace the strengths and address the diverse learning needs of our increasingly multicultural, multilingual student population, and it requires a collaborative effort from school leadership and teachers.